Hi, if you've been here for a while then you already know what I'm going to say, but because there will be people coming on today that haven't been here and don't know what I'm about to say, I'll go ahead and run through it very quickly. My name is Terry. I have 3 college degrees, including a master's degree from Ivy League University. I'm fluent in 2 languages, and I have a commercial driver's license that allows me to operate heavy trucks, and I still can't find a job. My girlfriend's been working at a fast food restaurant for the past 9 years, but what she really wants to do is become an elementary school teacher. So every day I'm going to be coming on here and telling you guys stories about things that I think are cool or interesting, and then I'm going to teach you a little bit of Spanish until I can earn enough money to send my girl to teaching school. So, the reason why we rush through so quickly is because we actually have some exciting news. If you've been watching for a while, you know that at the end of each of my videos, I always say, let me know if you have a topic that you'd like to see me cover. And last night, I actually got my first request. This person asks if I could give a brief overview of all the US presidents and the impact that they've had on American society. You got it. Now, when I was starting this project, I realized that this was going to be a massive undertaking. So we're going to be doing this video in segments. Today, we're talking about the first 10 presidents. So, as you well know, if you live in the United States, the first U.S. president is George Washington. He led the Continental Army into the Revolutionary War. As a result of his bravery and heroism, this made him very popular with the citizens of the New World, and it's in part why they wanted to elect him as the first president of the United States. And he was instrumental in the first draft of the U.S. Constitution. Now, what made him so impactful was that he served 2 terms and then he stepped down. See, back then, there were no constitutional rules that limited a president to serving only 2 terms. But this whole bloody revolution thing was in part because the people didn't want to be ruled by kings who would never let go of power. And so when the time came, many people were biting their nails wondering, is this dude going to step down or is he going to hold on to power, putting us right back where we started and making this whole revolution pointless? But he was like, no. I meant what I said. I'm serious about this whole democracy thing. And when his time came, he voluntarily stepped down and invited others to run to take his place. This eased the fear of monarchy that many people had, and it set a very important precedent for presidents to come. So if you have ever heard that phrase, peaceful transfer of power, this is where that comes from. The next president is John Adams. His presidency significantly damaged relations between the United States and France for a time. Here's what happened. There is violent conflict between France and the United States at that time. France is attacking American ships. Adams, of course, wants them to stop, so he sends diplomats to negotiate with France. When the agents arrive, they are told by the French officials that they must pay them bribes before they will even agree to begin negotiations. When this news reaches U.S. soil, Adams is furious, as is a large portion of the U.S. population. This sparks a wave of anti-French sentiment among the population, as well as nationalism as a whole. Adams massively bolstered the Navy to protect merchant shipping and is the reason why you have the Navy as a permanent branch of the U.S. military today. Next up is Thomas Jefferson. His most impactful accomplishment was the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. He paid $15 million to France for the Louisiana Territory. So, if you live in Arkansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, or Oklahoma, you have Jefferson to thank for your U.S. citizenship. He also drafted the Declaration of Independence. James Madison played a pivotal role in drafting the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He was also the first to declare war under the new Constitution. This was the War of 1812. Fifth is James Monroe, and he negotiated the purchase of Florida from Spain. Sixth was John Quincy Adams, and he was actually the son of 2nd President John Adams, making them the first father-son duo to ever serve. He was also the first to ever be accused of stealing an election. Here's what happened. There were 4 candidates in his race, not 2. And because there were so many, none of them earned a majority of the Electoral College votes. So the House had to choose between him and Andrew Jackson, and he was chosen. He had a vision to modernize America that was very bold for his time, and this plan contained two major components. First, the transportation revolution. He wanted to simplify travel so that people could get from place to place more quickly. To do this, he proposed a series of highways and canals to be funded by the government. The second part was a scientific and intellectual progress. Under this plan, the government would fund public observatories for astronomy, a national university in Washington, D.C., and exploratory expeditions into the Pacific Northwest to learn more about the minerals, plants, and animals that lived there. Now, some people hated this idea. Remember, Jackson is still pissed about this stolen election, and so most of Adams' detractors are Jackson supporters who say that he's overstepping his boundaries and abusing the office of the presidency. After his presidency, he was elected to the House. He was actually the first president to ever do so, and there he became one of the most outspoken voices against the expansion of slavery. The seventh president, Andrew Jackson, he finally got in there, was best known for the Indian Removal Act, a horrible tragedy wherein 60,000 Native Americans were forced to relocate from their ancestral homelands to Indian territories, which is now present-day Oklahoma. Members of the Cherokee, Muskogee, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Choctaw tribes were forced to walk over 1,000 miles with insufficient food and medicine in frigid temperatures. Over 12,000 of them died on that journey, marking this as the first ethnic cleansing in United States history. Ironically enough, the Cherokee actually won a Supreme Court case that gave them the legal right to their land, but Jackson ignored the ruling and ordered the relocation anyway. The next president was chosen by Jackson himself, his close friend and right-hand man, Martin Van Buren. He presided over a massive economic depression. Also, if you like the two-party system in America, you have Van Buren to thank for it. He was responsible for its creation. He believed that having two permanent political parties was actually good for America because it would force people to compromise. Just weeks after taking office, the American economy collapsed. The banks failed and unemployment skyrocketed. And because Van Buren believed in the laissez-faire approach to government, an approach where the government should not interfere in the U.S. economy, he refused to provide any federal aid to its citizens. This earned him the nickname Martin Van Ruin. The ninth president, William Henry Harrison, was unique in a number of ways. He invented the campaign. He was the first to use slogans and hold rallies. He held massive public rallies with music and the sale of merchandise. Now, his party portrayed him as a humble, rugged, log cabin man, but he was actually a wealthy aristocrat from a famous family in Virginia. He proved that image and personality were just as important in a campaign as the policies, if not more so, and changed the way that people ran for president forever. He also goes down in history as having the longest inaugural speech and the shortest presidency. For 8,000 words, he droned on, and he spoke in a freezing rainstorm. This ironically caused so much damage to his body that he contracted pneumonia and died just 31 days later. This sparked a panic because he was the first president to die in office. They had a vice president, but this was something that had never happened before. And they weren't sure if the VP was supposed to actually step up and become the real president. The Vice President John Tyler did step up and answer the call in 1841, and with his swift action, he established the precedent that the VP did in fact become the real president in the event of a president's death with the full powers of the office. Tyler disagreed with his party on many things and often vetoed their bills. This enraged them so much that the entire cabinet rage quit. They resigned in protest, calling him the accidental president. They tried unsuccessfully to impeach him, but this proved that a president could still lead the country even without any support from his party. He also annexed Texas, making it an official part of the United States. He did this because, number one, he thought it was important to grow the United States, and number two, he was a huge supporter of wanting to protect the institution of slavery, and Texas was a slave state. This event led directly to the Mexican-American War and later to the Civil War. So, The Spanish I'm going to be teaching you today is ¿Qué has aprendido hasta ahora? ¿Qué has aprendido hasta ahora? And what this means is, what have you learned so far? Tell me in the comments below. Tomorrow we'll be discussing the next chunk of US presidents. And if you like this video, drop a like down below. If you'd like to see a specific topic that I will cover, leave me a comment. And if you'd like to support this work that I do, there'll be a link to the Cash App in the description box below. We'll see you tomorrow.